Okay, so King Sejong, he really valued education, as Wes emphasized. He believed that the the way that the people would succeed is through just their understanding of the sciences, especially. So he ruled from 1418 to 1450. As Wes said, he invented the Hangul and also the printing press. And through the invention of these technologies, he was able to produce many books. And it was really interesting reading about him because every time it talked about some new idea or whatever that he had, it referenced some book that he wrote. And so there were many books being written at this time. He, science-wise, he built upon a lot of previous concepts that were taught in China and other nations, as well as previous in Korean history. And there were a lot of advancements, not only in medicine and agriculture, but science in general. So medicine, he opened a medical school that anyone could attend. So as Wes mentioned, he kind of broke down those social barriers, and so a lot of people were able to. There was more free education available to the people. He also printed medical textbooks, and he used knowledge from other countries such as China and just investigated that more. And he published many books about medicine and treatments, and he emphasized the use of herbs. And also, I thought this was interesting. In the forensic science department, he would encourage judges during trials to investigate forensic evidence at the scene, and he also encouraged autopsies to be performed on victims. So, with agricultural, the increase in medicine led to an increase in population, which facilitated better farming because they had more people, and so more people they had more labor to work the fields. So he also developed new fertilization techniques, which helped yield more crops. And one of the most important one was that rice was now grown in wet fields rather than dry fields. And also they shifted from farming large plots of land to just concentrating on farming small plots and really cultivating that. And that allowed for less time between planting and harvesting seasons. He also encouraged the use of dikes, the water wheel, and other irrigation equipment. And he developed, through other scientific advancements, an agricultural calendar for planting and harvesting, which before a lot of the techniques, they weren't very time specific, but with the developments in like the calendar system and different timekeeping systems, they were able to have more precise farming methods. So this is one of King Sejong's most important inventors. He had like a crew of inventors that he'd give assignments to help develop and research different things. And this guy, it was interesting because he actually came from a commoner's family, and he was able to work for the government. And some of the most important inventions that he created include the clepsydras, which I'll talk about later, and also the rain gauge and the celestial globe. So with sundials, they invented several variations. This one over here is the scaff sundial, or bowl-shaped sundial, and it emphasized hour minute lines and seasonal lines, and so it was more precise. And he distributed these sundials throughout the army as well as other government places, and he also placed two on the public streets, so commoners could even see what time it was. And unfortunately, the thing about sundials is it only works when the sun is out, and so he developed the Sun and Stars time determining instrument. I'm not going to attempt to say what that is, but it kind of combined the use of a sundial with a star dial, which would reference different stars to keep track of time during the night. And then this over here is the clepsydra, and there were a couple different kinds that he developed. This one is the striking clepsydra, and then he also developed the jade clepsydra. And it's an ancient time-measuring device that worked by flow of water and use of floating levers and rolling balls. I would explain it to you guys better, except it was very complicated when I was reading about it, and I probably wouldn't convey just how it works. But basically, it had water and a bunch of levers. One side was used to keep track of time during the day, and they had these balls that would roll down every hour. And the other side had was used to keep track of hours during the night. And at the end of each day, they would collect all the balls that had rolled down to the bottom and just put them back in their positions and then replace the water. And this, the next thing is the armillary sphere and celestial globe. And these were used mostly for calendrical purposes. And so they would reference different astronomical figures. And through this, he was able to develop a calendar system. And then also the rain gauge. And this would determine how much water would be available via streams and reservoirs for farming, which he developed this after the establishment of a new tax law. He created this in 1442, which actually this is attributed to that inventor I talked about earlier. His inventor actually developed this, but what would happen was each province, they would have a rain gauge, and at the end of every rainy season, they would be able to tell how much water there was available for farming, and thereby be able to accurately judge just how the harvest would go, and then plan the taxes accordingly. And so King Sejong the Great, he had many, he really developed the scientific fields, but it was mostly for the purpose of the people, so that everyone could have better lives. And yeah, so that's